What up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the Wise Take MLB DFS. Wise Stream, CK013 here. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013, and I am joined once again by the GOAT, the true OG known across the Wise Take Nation as Paulie D. You can find him on Twitter at Paulie with 8 D's. Paulie, what's happening, bro? Oh, the hang up, right on the introduction. Right on the intro. He could not have timed that better. That was perfect timing, bro. Like right as I gave you the intro, it was like
right on the
deuces.
intro.
Okay.
Just, I'm out like the mafia.
I'm out like the mafia. What's happening, bro?
What's happening, man? Big dog slate. Both sports. We had the biggest slates we've had in a minute.
Yep, definitely massive baseball slate for sure. The NBA slate was big, like you said, but 7, I would die for a 7-game baseball slate. It's just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But here we are looking at it again. A couple days, or like these big slates. I kind of like to just throw crap at the wall. I mean, listen, we do our research, we grind, we bust our ass, but it's so big that like I just try to find the stuff that I think would be somewhat low owned. That maybe I'm not even concerned about ownership as much as it's not about the number of ownership to me. It's more about like, are people just gonna overlook this and just say I have this, so I don't need this? Like, you know what I'm saying? That's kind of like, what do you think on these massive slates?
No, I agree. Usually there's like, because of the industry and touting, there's like 3 or 4 spots that get all the ownership, and then everything else is like 10% or less, and equally good spots or similarly good that work out. I mean, slates is big, like you say. You don't really got to worry about ownership, but if you can fade away from some of the real chalk stuff, which let's take a look at the projected ownership across the slate right quick, and see what the pros are projecting. So Arizona, couple Tampas, couple Philly, couple Colorado, couple Detroits in terms of bats, which means I think you're going to see Scherzer, 43, Zach Wheeler, 23, Marco Gonzalez, your cash game SP2 at 22, Dylan Bundy at 9.7, 20%, and Josh Lindblom, the other cash game SP2. So that's, 3 or 4 spots on both the pitching and the hitting end that'll have ownership. Everything else is wide open. And there's more than 3 or 4 good spots on the slate, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that's a really good point. And again, there's some chalk that's like Max Scherzer. I understand that people want to eat that. We'll talk about the pitching options, but on a slate this big, I try to keep my bankroll, keep playing what I've been playing, not do anything crazy because it's a big slate, and just try to get some pivots. And if you're right, you're right. In cash games, I'll play the optimals. In cash games, I'll do the dirty. But in GPPs, as we like to say, we like to try to find them low owned pivots. With that said, Paulie, talk to me about the spend up pitchers. We got a couple of them today. Who are you thinking about rolling the dice with if you're spending up?
Yeah, so I think you can, unless you're going to one of those really expensive stacks, grab Scherzer with a Martin Perez or, one of these cheaper guys, Lindblom or Marco Gonzalez, and come out with a pretty good lineup. Pretty good hitting environment. The Mets are good offense, but it's Scherzer. He's got massive ceiling. I think you should use him somewhat. Zach Wheeler, I don't think I'm going to go to. Baltimore's been hot. He does have strikeout upside, but he really never seems to bust the ceiling open and, drop like a 40 burger. It's always like 10 strikeouts, but he gave up 3 runs. The Baltimore offense has been hot. There's a good hitting park. Dylan Bundy, 9.7, that's kind of pushing the boundaries for me, but I do like him. I do think he does well today, coming off a complete game and whatnot. That's not always optimal, but I just think people, if they're going that high, they're just going to go up to Scherzer, so he'll be very, very low owned. Mike Minor, I'm cool with. That's probably it. Mike Minor and Max Scherzer are the only 2 I think I'll use up top, and most likely I don't. Probably have one out of 5 teams. I probably have Scherzer on 1, and that's it. above 9K.
Yeah, I understand that mentality on the spend ups. I do like the spend ups a little bit differently. I agree with you on Scherzer. If you can afford to fit him, I don't see why not. I'm going probably somewhere around 20-30%. Just I want to have him, and so I'm not dead if he goes nuts, but just kind of hope he doesn't go nuts. There are a couple of cheap stacks though that I like that maybe I can get him on some teams with. I do like Wheeler a little bit more. Right now, Wheeler's got like a 12% strikeout rate, but he's got a 10.9% swinging strike rate. That's pretty much where he has been over his career. So I expect that strikeout rate to move up. Similarly, how we sometimes look at teams offensively who we know are going to do a little bit better than they're performing. I think there's a few pitchers on this slate that are on that end of the spectrum where their numbers haven't been great, but based off what we've seen them do in years past, we expect them to progress. And I expect Baltimore to kind of trend in the other direction at some point. Maybe this is not it. This is a good hitting environment. I actually do like the Phillies offense, who we'll talk about. But I do like Wheeler a little bit more of just an ownership thing, down from Scherzer. And then Bundy, I'm on the fence with you, man. The A's strike out a ton right now. They're just striking out a whole bunch. Bundy's always been much better against righties. This A's team is pretty right-handed. I think is Laureano appealed to suspension, so he's going to play today. Okay, yeah, he's going to play today. But they've been striking out a ton. I think we've got like Tony Kemp, Austin Allen, Robbie Grossman as three of the lefties are thrown out there. Matt Olson's really the only one that is any good, and we have a good park. So I'm cool with Bundy, but like Paulie said, usually when pitchers are coming off those complete games where they've thrown more pitches than usual, we get a little weary, and I am a little weary. But it is early in the season. And he does have a pretty good park to work with, so I'm okay with him. And then that for me, it's a mix of those three guys up top. What about the mid tier, Paulie D?
Yes. So I like Ross Stripling against the Padres. Got a good pitching umpire, good park. Padres been really good offensively, but they do strike out. We saw the kid last night, did all right versus them. It was like a 2-1 game. Rick Porcello, I'm willing to use at 6-7 against Washington after they went bonkers yesterday. No one's going to use him. And, this guy was a Cy Young, I think, like 3 years ago. Don't really think he's that good, but I think this is actually a pretty decent matchup for him. Washington mostly right-handed, although Soto did return and went right to doing what he does, hitting jacks. But I do think you could use him at 6-7, and I think he'll be all right today. And that's really it in the mid-tier. Most of what I like is in the value section.
Value section down and dirty. I'm with you. There was a few guys. You mentioned Ross Stripling. He's probably the guy that I would feel comfortable with more in cash against the Padres. In tournaments, I'll have some, but a little reluctant to go too heavy. The Padres did just see him in his last start. I think that Jordan Montgomery's kind of interesting. He's another one where we didn't see him a ton last year in the big leagues, but in 2018 we had a pretty decent sample of him. And his swinging strike rate, again, is still where it always kind of has been, somewhere at that 10-11% range. And his strikeout rate is just really down. The Braves are first in the league right now in strikeouts against lefties, with like a 34% strikeout rate. So at some point we could expect that to dissipate. But I know Acuna just got scratched. I don't hate the idea of rolling out Jordan Montgomery in tournaments. The other mid-tier option that I had my eye on was this Brandon Belak dude. He's another one of those minor league, he did really well in the minor leagues, but he made a big jump. And this is going to be one of the softest matchups he's seen since coming up here. He threw 82 pitches in his last outing. He's going to be at home against a Giants team. We don't know what to expect much, but he's 7-5. And like Paulie, I am kind of interested in trying to save some money at pitcher so I can pick the bats I want. So he would be the last mid-tier guy I'll mention. The other guys I have down in value section. Paulie, take it away with value. Value town.
Yep. So Marco Gonzalez, I like, against Texas. They struggle with junk, and that's all he does throw. I think he'll eat some innings, won't give up many runs, and, he struck out 7 and 6 Angels. He should be able to strike out more Rangers. I've got some interest in Martin Perez against Tampa. Kind of the same deal. Like, Tampa hits the fast shit well, struggles versus the junk. Marty Perez is kind of a guy who, looks like he should get lit up and never really does. So I'm willing to take shots at him at 6-1. And this Josh Lindblom guy just looked good. He was dominant in the KBO. He's 5'8". And not that I love picking on Minnesota, but, the bottom of their order, actually today is kind of a loaded lineup. I'm not too into that. Just Marty Perez and Marco G down there. And Garrett Richards, I think I'd be willing to take a shot at as well.
Yeah, I totally understand you with the Martin Perez, just troll city. I'm on the Rays side of that one, but I totally understand the merit. And Perez has been good so far to start. Marco Gonzalez, I agree with you completely. This Texas Park has played out as more pitcher friendly as the season progresses, and the Rangers are like 6th in the league right now in strikeouts to lefties, and that's not anything new or you expect regression or progression to hit. That's just what they are. They were like that for the last 2 years now. So I'm with you on that. And then Lindblom, it's a little worrisome. It's a small park. He's against the Twins, but he's just so cheap on DraftKings that I'm gonna at least chance it with some teams. I don't like the fact that he's gonna be popular. It makes you figure why even do it. But I will take some shots on him. But the pitching to me, it's I have a decent sized pool, but I'm gonna be fairly even on a lot of these guys. I don't really have one or two guys that stand out to where I'm I definitely want a ton of this guy. It's more I'll get some of this guy, get some of that guy. But the pool itself, I think it's 5 or 6 pitchers in total. I guess we'll go to the bats, Paulie. What stacks are you looking at today for you, the plays?
So the Cubs are probably my favorite stack against Plutko. Loaded lineup. Haven't really done the dirt just quite yet. This guy Plutko's got a 5 xFIP. He's not striking guys out. He's getting hit from both sides of the plate. But last year, in a real sample, he was reverse splits. He gave up almost a 250 ISO to righties. And, significant fly ball pitcher, hard contact guy. Really like the Cubs' power today, especially some of the right-handed power. And you got a little Jason Kipnis revenge, batting 9th for very cheap to kind of make the whole thing work if you want to go that route. He throws basically 2 pitches to righties, sliders and 91-mile-per-hour fastballs. Both have gotten torn up by righties. The slider, you got Baez with a 220 ISO, Willie Contreras up there at 200. And against that fastball, 91 miles per hour, the whole team just crushes. Ian Happ with a 333 ISO, Kyle Schwarber 300, Chris Bryant 448. I think this is a really sneaky high upside stack that I'm going to have the most of. I also like the other Chicago team, the White Sox against Tyler Alexander and whoever's coming in after. Tyler Alexander, actually a decent left-hander, but I don't think he'll be in much more than 1 or 2 innings. And the White Sox lineup is at full strength with Tim Anderson leading off, Moncada Grandal, Jose Abreu, and E5, Eloy Jimenez, and Louis Roberts. It hasn't been this strong since the opening week. So I like them against, a terrible Detroit bullpen after these guys get out. I like Colorado. Charlie Blackmon is red fucking hot right now. I think he's 15 for his last 19 with 6 extra base hits, a ton of runs, a ton of RBIs. Can't really remember this wild of a hot streak from anyone that lasted this long, He's almost batting 750 over his last 20 at-bats. That's wild. So he's seeing the ball well. Want to get some shares of him, Arenado, Danny Murph, David Dahl, Ryan McMahon, Trevor Story, Garrett Hand. I like the whole lineup. And that's probably my most interested. I kind of like the Braves. Acuna getting scratched. I wanted him in my lineup too, but I still like it. I like Duvall and Austin Riley as the sneaky power righty bats against the lefty. Ozuna murders lefties. Freeman, Swanson, Camargo, I even like. And then I also like the Yanks on the other side, right? So those are probably the 5 teams I go to war with. Yankees, Braves, White Sox, Cubs, and Rockies. And, all those are fairly expensive, so I'll be dumpster diving at pitcher once again.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I agree with the Rocky side of the ball. I mean, it's cores in general. I like the D-back side of the ball too, but I'm not going to be playing them. I'm fading cores just for the sake of fading cores on a slate this massive when I know it's going to be popular. A few of the teams that I'm zoning in on, the White Sox, you mentioned as well. I agree with you. I was waiting for their lineup to come out. I was pleased to see that they do appear to be full strength. That was a big factor. I do like them against this basically a Detroit bullpen game with winds blowing out a little bit, warm weather, humidity. We know this White Sox team is definitely improved. I like the Angels as one of the other spend-up teams against Mike Fiers. Fiers has like a 7% K rate so far. It's a little early to be judging, I know, but why not take advantage of a situation where, if you believe he's a bad pitcher, we know Mike Trout has the BVIP, for those of you who like the BVIP.
And he's red and hot. Another 2 home runs yesterday.
Yeah, and he's, aside from the BVIP, probably is right. He happens to be scorching right now. The Nationals are in another good spot. I'm not a Porcello guy. I'm not a fan of Porcello. Yesterday, we all fucked up, and we should have known from last year. No excuses. Whenever Steven Matz is playing the Nationals, you have to have National stacks because at least half of the time, they're going to break the slate and beat the shit out of Steven Matz. So that was on us. And listen, I'm asking for lightning to kind of strike twice. This Nationals team does not look as good as it did last year or the year before at that. But I just that's just what I think of Porcello. I think he's fucking terrible, and it's really good hitting weather out in New York right now.
Yep.
The Philadelphia Phillies are also one of my favorite stacks. I think that they could go overlooked. Nobody realizes while everybody saw the Nationals beat the shit out of the Mets yesterday, nobody really noticed that the Phillies, because they weren't on the slate, beat the shit out of the Braves.
They did. They've been hot too.
Yeah.
Real Muto. I don't know who else has really been hot, but Real Muto's definitely been hot, and they've been putting up runs. But I can't actually say specifically another guy that I know that's been hot, but maybe you can.
No, it's not even. I think it's like a collective team kind of deal, and they're healthy. Like this is the first time, like Segura, everybody's in there together, so you're kind of really seeing what this Phillies offense looks like. And the problem is they've been playing so many double headers, they haven't been on any slates, very many slates, I should say. So I do like the Phillies. As I'm hoping to be somewhat of a low-owned stack to kind of jump on. Yeah, I said I think I wrote up 5 stacks. That's 4. I think I wrote up 5 stacks in the article. I'm going to cut it there. But those are kind of the offenses. It's funny. This is the first time that, like, not that we're against each other, but like on a slate this big, it's the first time that we're kind of on different stuff. Like there was a lot of common ground. We had both on the White Sox. We had a couple pitchers in the mid-tier in value. But definitely curious to see how it plays out, man. That's what happens when you have a slate this fucking big. And one of the benefits to that is like the ownership is never all that high because like us, there's people got to make these decisions too. But even so, if I can find the chalkiest group of that, I will try to stay away. It's like even so, right? Because there's just so many other options. It doesn't make sense to play the chalk when there's just so many other options. Like there's got to be some other team that does that beats out that chalky team or at least matches it. Dirty style. We'll do some Dong Watch, and then we'll pop into the chat. So, who's going yard today?
I had somebody. Oh, Javi Baez is going yard today.
I like that one, man. We haven't mentioned his name in a while. It's a good call with the Cubs. I was tempted, and like I even saw that there was the Sharp report that said the Sharps are on the over in that game. Definitely something you may have talked me onto. I may have to grab a couple Cubby stacks. I will go with let's go with E5, Edwin Encarnacion.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if you're doing a White Sox stack, Abreu or E5.
I'm going E5, but I'm gonna try to stack the White Sox more on FanDuel so I can play them both.
Who that say gonna beat them? Go. Give me Austin Riley.
I like it. I'll go with JT Realmuto.
Great chisel. And I will roll with um, Chris Bryant.
Loving it. I'll go with Juan Soto.
So
Who, by the way, is only 4,100 on DraftKings. Oh, I'm sorry, on FanDuel. Oh, it's FanDuel. That's why. Okay. Answered my own question. Holla. All right, let's look into the chat real quick. Let me see. Aaron asked for the homer calls. We got it. Artful Dodger. I'm late, but I'm here. Better late than never. Tony A says the Texas roof is closed tonight. That certainly helps make it more of a pitcher-friendly park. Artful Dodger asked for favorite GPP stacks, but we just went over that. Holla at your boy. That's gonna be it for us today. We still got some time. Just a quick show. Again, it's a big slate. We're not gonna sit here and talk about every single situation. It's a big slate. You got to take your stands. You're only building so many teams, most of you anyway. You're gonna have to make your stands. Those are the players that we're the highest on. The teams we're the highest on. Teams we're going to war with. It's funny because when you have a smaller slate, you're more likely to go more deep because you can cover everything. When it's a big slate like this, like you can research all the games, sure, but by the time you get to team like 20, you wouldn't forgot what you talked about in team A, B. You know what I'm saying? Like in the beginning, teams 1 and 2. But it's a big one. Have some fun, build some teams, and hopefully tomorrow we have a little bit of a smaller slate, although it's a Wednesday. That's typically the case. Anything in closing, Paulie, before we get up out of here?
No, I mean, I echo most of what you said. I'll throw in like last second, just did a quick little profile of the Dodgers and better than I thought. So maybe add them to the list of offenses to consider.
Doyers. For Paulie D, for myself, the entire White Steak Nation, we'll be back at it tomorrow. And as always, good luck.
Good.